Thinking about spray foaming your metal building? There are a lot of questions out there from smell, safety, and temperature regulation. But we're going to cut through all that noise today with an expert himself. Welcome back, Pack. This is Abil from WolfSteel Buildings, and today we're going to be talking a lot of spray foam. We're going to be answering a lot of the questions that are out there on Facebook, on our YouTube channel, in the comment sections, everything you need to know about spray foam on a metal building. We said, you know what? Why not bring in an expert, someone that we have been working with for quite a bit right now. That's who we have here, an expert himself, and that is Walter, president of Performance Spray Foam. Welcome to the channel, Walter.
Thanks
for making it out.
Much appreciated. Happy to be here.
That's awesome. Well, Walter, before we get into all the questions that everybody wants to know, why don't we talk about you? How long have you been doing this?
So I stumbled into the installation business as a 19-year-old soon-to-be dad.
Okay.
And I needed a job. And I was like, I needed a second job, to just provide ends me so that way my wife could stay home and raise the kids. And so
When you were 19?
Yeah.
Oh.
I actually just had my first grandbaby.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'm only 40, so it's kind of a wild thing. But so I stumbled into that, and I was a laborer. So I was just installing fiberglass, blowing attics, and we were installing metal building insulation vinyl, all those different types of things. And maybe a year into that, 6 months into that, I actually became a production manager of that company. But a year into that, I ended up they wanted to bring in spray foam as part of their arsenal of products. And so I sat through a 2-month training program, one-on-one with a guy. He taught me everything there was about spray foam at the time. It was only closed cell, because back 20 years ago, there was kind of like this rival, gang up on open cell versus closed cell. What's the good, what's not good, and of course everything's changed with education. And so that's kind of where I got my start 20 years ago, working for what would be one of the largest corporations now, from production to sales to eventually running a company, to leaving that, starting a company for another guy, to eventually just going out on my own 14 years ago.
14 years ago.
14 years ago.
Wow. Okay, so like almost 20 and 14. Okay, that's awesome, man. Congratulations.
So, yeah.
And I know that, a lot of our clients love our spray foam, and you have been your company and you have been a very big contributing factor into that. So thank you again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, guys, before we get into the questions, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You guys ready for this? Let's go. Currently shopping for a Texas metal building? WolfSteel is Texas built for Texans. We don't just build structures. We build for hobbyists, business owners, car enthusiasts, or anyone who needs or wants a custom metal building where things get done. Red iron or tubular, bolt up or weld up, site prep, concrete, demolition, insulation, gutters, custom doors, cedar add-ons, masonry. WolfSteel does it all in one place, so your project gets done the right way with control. We're control freaks here. And here's the difference. Our clients don't choose us because we're the cheapest. They choose us because every project goes through multiple checks, and we don't hand it over until it's done right. Don't take it from us. Take it from our endless reviews. Keep in mind, we do not service outside of our service area. We do not provide just materials, and we do not provide just metal building kits. We don't do standalone concrete or standalone spray foam. We do full turnkey Texas metal building projects. If you fall within our service area, contact us today. If not, I hope that our channel helps you with your future metal building project. All right, so first question is, here at WolfSteel, we do metal buildings, so we primarily offer closed cell spray foam. From your experience, Walter, what do you recommend between closed cell and open cell, and what are the benefits of each, type of spray foam, for a metal building?
Sure. The closed cell, open cell battle isn't anymore. It's about functionality. It depends on your project. Open cell is a primarily residential product. It's a light density, but it can absorb some water. So it's typically used in residential. It's more cost effective. It's just as comparable in the performance of closed cell, but at an economical price compared to the price of closed cell. It's not a vapor retarder. Okay,
Mhm.
a closed
Yeah.
cell is a vapor retarder, but open cell's not. In our climate zone, you don't typically need a vapor barrier. So in residential, you have the vapor barrier on the outside and on the inside. Certain climate zones require a vapor barrier on the inside, so that would be a closed cell climate zone. So you go up north where it's really cold and they have ice damming and things like that. All their houses are closed cell, no open cell.
Mm,
But in our climate zone here in Texas, majority of Texas, it's all open cell.
that makes
And
sense.
so but when you take closed cell as example, wine rooms, because you have damp and cool, crawl spaces, damp and cool, metal buildings because you have the hot and cold metal, right? So damp and cool again. And so that's why closed cell is primarily seen in metal buildings.
In metal buildings.
When you do barndominiums, you'll see some closed cell and open cell combinations.
Combinations, right?
Because it's you're not going to want to put open cell on a roof where you potentially have a roof leak, because it's going to take a little bit. The open cell is going to absorb some of it. It doesn't destroy the open cell, but it takes a little while to figure out where your leak's coming from.
That makes sense.
So typically we'll see a combination of closed cell first and then open cell after.
To fill in after.
Correct.
That's why we do only closed cell spray foam. We don't get into barn dominiums as of yet, but we've seen clients that finish the inside. We come in, we do the closed cell, and then they come in do the open cell afterwards, where they fill in their wood, their studs, with the open cell. But I know you don't just do for metal buildings, so why don't you talk a little bit of what you do, like in other types of projects?
We started off as a residential construction business as far as, we did, because we even used to do shingles. And so we primarily did most of our business was all custom homes. And even till today, 70% of our revenue source is all custom homes. Anything that's, semi-custom to custom, non-production builders. We also do commercial work, which is from warehouses to office buildings to strip centers.
Mm-hmm.
Metal buildings being more your end user type products. So, whether even for warehouses for construction or, personal car shop. We also do industrial. We've even done chicken farms where they actually have a chicken foam that it stops it's supposed to help lessen the chance of the chicken are going to peck the foam inside these like these Tyson facilities and these chicken places. And so they've actually manufactured foam just for chickens. And so basically the sky's the limit, but we've done a little bit of every type of project you can think of, from water tanks outside to flat roofs in a commercial building, where you're spray applying closed cell and going over with the intumescent coating. There's a lot of different things we can do.
That's awesome. Good to know. These are things that, although we do only spray foam for metal buildings, it's interesting how spray foam can be used in so many different other industries, and damn, it's crazy.
Yeah, there's an application for it in almost anything you do, from even slab lifting. You can lift your house instead of the typical piers. You can actually do it with spray foam. They make a slab jacking foam.
Yeah.
Sidewalks, walkways, and sometimes if you fly in late, like I have sometimes in the DFW airport, you'll be on the highway and it'll be shut down. There's a big semi truck. Sometimes that's a polyurethane semi truck jacking the highway. So sometimes when you see these unlevel roads, they'll go in there and they'll void fill it with spray foam.
And that's closed cell?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more.
It's just a different types of density.
Okay.
Because closed cell, the typical closed cell is 2 pounds per cubic foot, which is 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot. But like when you get into roofing foams and jacking foams, they can go all the way up to 10, 12 pounds per cubic foot. It depends on the tensile strength needed. So, because like when you go on a flat roof, you have service and utility for AC. Well, you don't want somebody to walk on it and it cracks the foam.
That makes sense.
And so you raise the density, it can take more tensile strength of pounds per square inch.
I've seen that in reels and on social media where they use that, spray foam to level out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch.
That's pretty cool.
It's real fun to watch. I've always been scared of it because I'm like, what happens when we put too much? Do we gotta dig it out now? And so there's something for everything on the spray foam.
And there is I know it's not one of the next questions, but it is something that I love about spray foam when it is applied on our metal buildings is you were just talking about the density, the closed cell added to the sheet metal. I can feel there's extra strength to the panels.
Sure. Yeah, when because you have these corrugated metal panels that are fixated by screws to the red iron or the aluminum structure skeleton, let's call it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're typically moving and shifting, expanding, contracting. When spray foam's applied, it becomes part of that metal system now. So it doesn't eliminate the expanding contracting, but what it does, it glues as a system, so it's gluing it together. That's why a lot of times you'll see these municipalities around hurricane-driven areas where they use spray foam because it enables the wind uplift. You know, because as soon as your roof blows off, your whole structure is a problem, right?
Correct.
And so you'll see that. Hurricane strapping is one thing, but they'll hurricane strap it and spray foam it. We've seen, you know, these unfathomable storms hit these coastlines, and you'll see some like shingles missing or tile roofs and the plywood, and then you can see just spray foam still attached to the studs.
Now, that makes a lot of sense because on a metal building perspective, it becomes weak to the point that just maybe one screw just unbolts or like,
Yeah.
that's the weak point, and then from there it grabs momentum.
Well, and that's the great thing about with the spray foam is that essentially it's gluing the shell together, right? So when somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, you know, I've got roof leaks. Well, 9 out of 10 times it's a penetration. Well, where's your penetration in your metal? It's your screws, right? And because that building's opening, closing, expanding, contracting. So what happens is it slowly moves. It slowly moves, and then, you know, 10, 15 years down the way, you could have lost a screw,
Yeah.
right? Some of these companies out there that not WolfSteel way, you know, when the quality fails, because not all metal building guys are identical, right? This is what I pride WolfSteel on, is as simple as lining these screws up with the framing.
Mm-hmm.
Seems really simple, but I can't tell you how many metal building guys we've dealt with where we walk in and it's like screws are not even into the steel or the aluminum. And I'm like, well, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And so I know that wasn't part of the question, but you know, it's
No, but it's
we would look at that. You know, even as a spray foam company, we're not the one that own the metal building,
yeah.
or we're the metal building contract, but we're like, but we get in trouble when foam goes out, and then you figure out why it went out. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing I know, you know, I wanted to pride you guys on is like, you guys do a top quality job.
Thank you. Of course, you guys also do great work as well. And but that's actually really important that you mentioned that, because that is one of our questions, which is another question that we have is on the, once a metal building is built, clients can add spray foam, right?
Sure.
And so when they add spray foam, typically a metal builder will not typically want to warranty anymore the building because, you know, so a third party accessory was added onto it. That actually even happens for like even overhead doors or like doing any penetrations into the building, like electrical and stuff like that. But what is your thoughts on that from your perspective on the spray foam? Because I know spray foam is becoming super popular. Well, it is super popular in metal buildings.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those gray areas. It's, you know, when it comes down to the warranties, first picking the right contractor, right? The right manufacturers from the get-go, right? So people that work unison together. You see it in all things. It's like, this is non-transferable warranty if you sell the house, right? To me, it's a cop-out for a lot of people, and manufacturers do it because it takes them off the thing, you know, and majority of things are like that. But adding spray foam to a metal building that doesn't have it only enhances the building. It's only going to make the building last. So any company that, in my opinion, would stray away from, you know, that, hey, I'm not going to have a warranty, I think they've got to think about all their options there, because, you know, like we talked about, the foam is going to help the structural integrity of that metal, right? It's like, if you think about a tornado's going to come through. Do they ask you what your wind uplift rating is, what your wind load rating is when they build these buildings? Not all the time. They're like, what's the best price you can give me? You know, and so it's like, you got to take all things into consideration.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, we had a customer just today. He's like, I don't want to pay you until I see the warranty information. And I'm like, well, it's literally a lifetime warranty, buddy. You know, and because that's what it is. Like with spray foam, manufacturer does limited lifetime, right? The life of the structure. It doesn't matter how many people bought that property. Limited lifetime. You know, which I think it prides, you know, a lot of these manufacturers for that, because they're standing by their product. Workmanship warranties, obviously, the whole industry in different areas, from spray foam companies to roofers to metal building guys, everybody has their own workmanship warranty. I went to a house we sprayed 12 years ago. And he called me, he's like, hey, I got these areas, I found these holes just from people working, right? It wasn't anything we did. We sent a crew out there and just fixed it. You know, my workmanship warranty is like 5 years. So I'm like, he called me. I'm like, glad he remembered who I was.
Yeah.
12 years later, because it was a testament to who we are. And I'm like, you know what, we'll send a crew out there, let's get it fixed. But it's hard, you know, when you talk about warranties, you know, for years we've battled warranties from shingles. Warranties from the metal fading over time with spray foam on it, not with spray foam on it. But it's like as more education and science and all these different things are done, they're realizing spray foam, it's benefiting the building more than harming the building.
Exactly.
You know, we've seen that in the last 20 years. It's like Owens Corning and Certainty, two of the biggest shingle manufacturers there are, if not the biggest, right? They refused to have a warranty on a shingle that was a spray foam roof because it would hold in heat, and eventually the shingles would fail well before their 30-year, right? Or their 15-year, 20-year, depending on the brand, right? Certainty now owns the spray foam manufacturing company. Owens Corning also owns a spray foam manufacturing company. They have lifted all regulations on it is okay. The shingle does not cook, right? And so we've actually seen that in the last year with metal manufacturers, same thing. It's like, hey, you know, not sure the exact terminology in the metal, but it's like the decomposition of the facing of the metal, like delaminating. These things will happen if it's with spray foam because it gets noticeably hotter. And so like the Metal Building Manufacturers Association, they did a test along with the Spray Foam Polyurethane Alliance. An 8-year test. They took 80 samples, put them outside, 40 coated, 40 uncoated. And then a year ago, they released a white paper, which is like a scientific newsletter, stating that the panels that had spray foam actually had less degradation to the paint than the ones that didn't. I'm not saying that makes the metal build, you have to have spray foam to, you know, for your metal building. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it negates what's being said. You get a lot of political bias when it comes to vinyl fiberglass insulation was the primary insulation for all metal building for decades.
Yeah.
And it has its place. There's nothing wrong with it. But when you start taking market share and it's moving over to the spray foam market share, then it's like, wait. Pump the brakes.
So much.
It's so much, you know.
And so that's where we came in, and we started offering like, well, two things. I know we were talking about it. You shared the article, the case study, and it's a great case study, which, by the way, we can definitely share it in the description. It's a great study by the Metal Association. I'm not sure if it's the Metal Builders or is the Metal.
I think it was the MCA.
Yeah, and so it's a great case study, and I'm glad that it's out there, and it specifically is for metal. Definitely like for metal that is with fasteners.
Sure.
So it's a great case study, and it's right there. The other thing I wanted to mention about that is that's also why we, you know, what we started doing is like we started offering spray foam because we started to really see before WolfSteel Buildings. I've been in the industry for like 15 years, and so many clients were applying spray foam. And every time I would go and see them, like I would ask them like, "How are you liking it?" I love the performance. It's so good. My sheet metal is a lot tougher. But none of them have ever called me about any issues because of the spray foam afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's told me like, hey, this works. And so it wasn't until like I moved over here and like started WolfSteel Buildings, I'm like, no, I can definitely offer that product because I really believe in it. And so throughout years.
It's funny you say that because that's why I've stayed in this industry as long as I have. Because before I even started my company, I was like, I was burned out. Like, I don't want to do insulation no more. You know, it's like I got good at it, you know, but I'm not a salesman. You know, I'm not a salesman, and I'm like indirectly selling you because I'm being your friend. And it's like that's not my goal. My goal is education. But what kept me in it was the passion of the fact that what we do actually works, right? Because it's like you watch all these infomercials and you're like, does that Shazam really do that? You know, and it's just like thinking to yourself, does it work? Well, with spray foam, it speaks for itself. It's not, you know, it's not snake oil. It's not, that's what's been great is like, and that's what I like about the 20 years I've been in it is I've got to see it transition, you know, because when I first got in this industry, it's like somebody that's going to buy a Honda, you're trying to sell them a Bentley. It was very, very expensive, very expensive. But then you had to go over, you know, this guy over here selling open cell, this guy selling closed cell. And it's like, then you had to like tell them what you knew, right? We used to tell people that open cell would, you know, it's water blown, and as soon as the water comes out, it would shrink, which isn't true at all. And so, but that's how it was sold, you know, and that's how you're taught if you're only taught one product. And so I spent 20 years to educate myself in all aspects of not just that, but I even took an internship with a metal building company before I moved to Texas. But it was like telemarketing sales, but I wanted to learn everything there was about metal buildings. It really enhanced me throughout my career. But, you know, back to my original point is a passion for the product because it does work. And if something is not warranted today, give it 10 years. And they're going to be like, yep, it works. You know, it is exactly what it says it's going to do.
Let's continue with the next question. Say a client says that they want to regulate temperature in a building, right? But their building has a lot of like large garage doors. What do you recommend to that client?
So it really just depends on the usage of the building. The simple fact is, is it going to be air conditioned? Not air conditioned. If we're trying to regulate the temperature of a building that has no air conditioning, it all comes down to sealing, air sealing. Spray foam's an air seal, so that's step one. Insulated garage doors, I recommend you buy them pre-insulated, but if not, Home Depot sells amazing kits. There's plenty of company out there that sells kits to insulate the garage door. The other is, all your gaps and voids around your garage doors. Tight fitment, rubber seals, things like that. And ventilation, it will help move air, right? Because foam is fantastic, but it can also trap heat because you're not moving any air.
Correct.
Right?
It does feel like that.
Exactly. We did an indoor pool. It's a metal building. It's a 50 by 75 indoor pool on a guy's property. It's not air conditioned, but it's a metal building. And it's all spray foam, and it just has dehumidifiers and 2 of those big ass fans. And that's his ventilation system. And it performs phenomenally. And so it just really depends what you're doing, but he's moving air.
Yeah.
He's got 3 fans that pull out, 2 fans that put in, and then he's got 2 commercial dehumidifiers to help with the humidity.
Yeah.
So if you want to regulate your temperature in a metal building, it's non-mechanically controlled. Bring some air in, but pull some air out. Get air moving.
And I know it's not one of our questions that we have, but things are running in my head. We mentioned about garage doors being insulated. That's really, really important. I've seen, and some clients have asked, hey, can you just spray foam my non-insulated door? What is your thoughts on that?
Don't do it. Don't do it. I might be in the spray foam business, but it's just not worth it. One, it looks ugly. Okay, that's number one. It's ugly. I don't care how. I can send you the best guy I have, and it's still ugly. The second is it's too heavy. It makes the door too heavy. Even if it's an electric motored door, it's still heavy. The springs have to be adjusted when it's done. These guys that have chain drive doors, even with the spring loaded down, it's like I've seen 2x4s holding doors up. So we just stopped doing it.
Yeah.
The very rare situations, like mostly with airplane hangar clients, we'll do them. Like if it's a bifold door, stuff like that, we'll do it because that's not your typical garage door.
But if you can also get it engineered, probably to where like they put the specific weight.
Correct.
Like on
Well, and that's the thing. Spray foam's not awfully heavy, but it's a lot heavier than an insulated garage door. I mean, it has so much weight that it's heavy. Like you're literally 2 hands, maybe need somebody's third hand to come in and pull that chain to take that door up. I wouldn't do it on my own. I wouldn't recommend people doing it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we don't offer it. So like clients have asked like, well, can you just spray it? Like, no, we don't do that. If you want, you can hire your own. And
that's where I would say the garage door guy's not going to warranty the door. That motor's no longer warranted.
The third question was about condensation. It's a big issue for clients. I know you mentioned about ventilation. So anything you probably want to add, if it's from a spray foam perspective, how can this problem be addressed to clients? I'm assuming you really help with the ventilation, but there's anything.
So you got to look at Moisture is caused by, basically having the 2 temperatures hit a surface. Say you have a cooler temperature and the hot and the cold are coming together, right? They condensate, especially in metal buildings. A non-insulated metal building doesn't tend to condensate, right? Because there's nothing stopping or eliminating that airflow, right? A fiberglass vinyl insulated metal building, you typically don't see it for a few years, but later, if you've been in older buildings, you'll see the white vinyl starts turning brown, right? Because fiberglass is basically a filter. It's a filter on your walls. It does do insulating value, but it was designed to be air permeable. Air can pass through it. So people are looking at like, well, vinyl is, kind of is an air barrier in its sense, but no, it's taped everywhere. Where it's not taped is behind all the red iron, right? Where it pillows over, but guess what? There's still a gap in there. And the air still, moisture migrates hot to cold, wet to dry. So it's going to find its path. It always does. So when you do a spray foam building, for example, if all of your metal's coated, you're not going to see condensation because it's an air seal, right? So if you have gaps and voids, even in a spray foam building, you're going to get condensation. And that's something we've seen over the years too, is we'll have customers that have, these beautiful buildings, and they're going to paint the red iron black and do all these things, but they don't want spray foam on it. I'm like, it's going to condensate. It's going to condensate, especially window seals, right? Yeah. Uninsulated window seals. It's just raw iron, even if we foam around the gap around the window, it's still going to because it connects to the outside. So you have thermal transfer of energy happening between the outside and the inside. So when that hot and that cold will come together, it's condensation. And most buildings, even foam, with foam or vinyl, the condensation's on the roof, typically in the late evenings or early mornings, right? Because you have the direct heat load. I believe a buddy of mine called it it was like moonlight cooling or something. But
Mhm.
and he was talking about the stack effect with how you have a negative 300 degrees in a vacuum in space, and he tried to explain it to me, so I'm not even gonna go there. But it's the simple truth. Like, you'll see like frost too when you have spray foam. You have a frost on your roof, and it takes a lot longer for it to go away. Right? You see, it's really cool on shingle roofs because if you go into like a residential neighborhood like mine, I'll have frost on my roof for half the day, but none of my neighbors do because all that heat's leaving their house and melting it. And a metal building's the same way. You'll still see it during that time, but you can control condensation as long as you insulate it correctly. If you do it with
Well,
vinyl,
and that's the beauty of spray foam because it's sealed.
there's an air barrier. Air
Yeah.
can't pass through it, nor can moisture. Moisture travels off airflow, right? If air can't pass through something, well, moisture can't either. So it can't hit a dew point.
That makes sense. And the beauty also of spray foam is like it fills a lot of the voids, the little crevices, especially for corrugated panels.
Yeah.
Because it has a lot of that. Well, the corrugation creates a lot of crevices.
It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier is we're not all metal building guys are created equal. And even your best guys, they still mess up. I mean, it just happens, right? But spray foam goes in almost like an intimate coating and expands rapidly. So it finds every hole and void, right? So I love the look of gray. I love the look of black. But as a spray foamer, I hate it because it's the hardest to clean for us with spray foam, because spray foam will find a hole out that building. And so,
You're saying from an outside perspective, if it
Correct.
we call it oozes
yeah.
out, right?
Correct. Yeah, so exactly. So it's, a lot of our long-term clients, they even go in ahead of us and start doing caulking and sealing before we even get there. Just because they're learned through the process of us educating each other on what to look for. Because we try to hold our guys accountable too. Like, hey, if you see daylight, pre-insulate that,
Yeah.
right? Because it's going to find a way out. But that's the beauty of spray foam, like you were saying, is it's going to seal up every gap and void you have. Because a lot of the ones you don't see is when it's behind, like, say, the corner beams. That corner I-beam there, the corner aluminum, it's like where that metal comes together on the corner, it's like you can't see that gap. It's usually at the very bottom plate behind that beam, and it comes right out that corner.
Yeah.
But wherever foam comes out, the pest can't get in.
Which is one of the other questions. That's something you mentioned is pests can't get in. You said that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's also a really big benefit about it. And so what we do in our metal buildings, and it's one of our questions, as you know, prepping the metal building for spray foam is very important. So when a client gets spray foam and they're getting spray foam with us, we tell them that, hey, we're going to add in foam gap enclosures. Okay. So these foam gap enclosures are basically made with the same design as the corrugated panels, and we install it all around. And it's basically insurance. Is there anything you want to add on to that fact? If the client doesn't get it, what is that process for you guys from a spray foam side? Like, hey, you arrive and there's no foam gap enclosure.
Yeah, so for me, it's a two-part answer, and this comes from a completely biased opinion. And it's number one being foam enclosures are very important. I think even your customers that don't end up with spray foam, I think it'd be in their best interest to buy them from you.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because it helps seal that void in the corrugated metal. Otherwise, you're talking about inch and a half, allows for air, moisture, pest, to possibly come into the building. So I think it's a valuable product that's worth buying. From a spray foam perspective, absolutely, it's a must, because otherwise we have to go through and we have to physically inject foam into each one of those holes to ensure that our foam doesn't blow out the building, because it will.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a very valuable item that your customers could benefit from. If it's in the budget, I would make it in the budget. And
Yeah.
And that's my opinion, just from the buildings that I've had built for myself. It's a no-brainer.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome that you elaborate on that. Filling every single void, and there's so many. So in like a 30 by 40, you're gonna have quite a lot.
It's top and bottom. It's top and bottom.
And then we got the wainscoting.
Mm-hmm.
That's even more.
Well,
That's the one that is like more critical, because that's in the eye level of a client, like walking around,
Yep.
they haven't using. it's really hard to clean off.
Yes. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of good products on the market that get spray foam off. We've had the unfortunate opportunity to reskin buildings before,
Yeah.
you know, and that's a testament to who we are, you know, customer satisfaction over profit. It's always been my mindset, my motto. Even though I know in my heart that many of this stuff is not our fault, because it's just, you know, it's a group effort, right? It's like if the building's put together correctly, this and that, you know, and you can speak from experience. I've never had to reskin one of your buildings because they're actually put together correctly. But I've had numerous fly-by-night metal building contractors who I'm blessed to have their work, but they really got to work on their quality and craftsmanship of their buildings. But they'll hold you responsible when the foam goes out. But at the same time, like, I mean, we walked up to buildings that are missing screws and they're like, it's moving. And I'm like, yeah, I can't spray foam that, you know? And we've been trying to teach our guys over the years what to look for, you know?
Wow. I mean, 20 years says a
A
lot.
lot of expensive lessons, you know?
So I remember like when I first started offering spray foam, one of our very first relationships. Again, I'm blessed that they wanted to work together and they had oozing and didn't want to come out and clean. And at that time, I was like, well, let me go out there. And I spent like, I kid you not, like 3 hours to like 5 hours just cleaning. And it was really hot outside, cleaning the wainscoting trim because they had it oozing out. Cleaning it, and then when you clean it, it also scraped off the paint.
Yep.
So then I also had touch up. So I'm there touching up. That was an experience. It made me learn how important it was to have preparation of a building is extremely important.
Yes, it is.
And also that's where the policy of like all spray foam, you're gonna get spray foam with us, you're gonna get foam gap enclosures is part of it.
Yeah,
You can't say no to it because we don't want to be dealing with oozing.
It's a great business decision, you know, and it's a great product for your customer. But yeah, because I mean, don't trust the spray foam, guys. We foam so well that it comes out.
It will.
You know, I was on a custom home in Houston yesterday that we just did, and we have a specialty product that only 3 of us in the U.S. can spray, and we've had the privilege to like go around the country. We flew an applicator out to Malibu to spray foam a house that ended up unfortunately being burned down in the big California fire, like 3 weeks after we went there. But we sent the product out there, used the local spray foam company's equipment. But simple truth is, $3 million house in Houston. It's an open cell job. The framer left a gap about a ½ an inch somehow under the bottom plate between the slab and I don't know how it happens unless they're just using bowed wood, but in 3 different spots.
The lower bottom plate and the slab?
Yeah, so 3 different spots, the foam came outside. You know, fortunately it didn't get on the stucco, it went down over the concrete slab. But I'm just like, that was a first for me on residential. You know, metal buildings, it's like you'll have moments, right? Even the best metal buildings, sometimes there's just, anytime there's a penetration somewhere. It could be a roof penetration or a dryer vent or just something, exhaust fan, something simple. But this one blew my mind because in 20 years, I rarely have a surprise, but that one was a surprise. I'm like,
how did that?
You know, because I'm like getting on my guys, are like, the stud is this far off the ground. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Let's go to the next question. So the next question for you, Walter, is as far as from like a client getting a metal building, spray foam is on the more expensive side compared to like fiberglass and some of the other products like just radiant barrier.
Sure.
What is your take on that? And you know, what is your take on that?
In most cases, the foam could be a higher upfront cost. Okay, if that's a given. But from an operational perspective, once that building's yours, everything that you're going to power on in there, right? Because even people that say, hey, I'm not going to air condition it, they decide to put a space heater in there. Right, or a gas furnace or something especially for the winter. They can get through the summer, you know, with a fan, this and that. But operational perspective, it's way cheaper in the long term. So you spend a little bit more now, you won't regret it later because it's easier to say that, right? They're either living with fiberglass or living with spray foam, so they don't really know the difference. But I mean, it's like even in the residential world, there's 40 to 50% less utility consumption in a spray foam house. And the same thing applies to metal buildings. You know, whether it's air conditioned or not air conditioned, it's going to be cheaper for the overall for the building.
Another thing is, don't forget to watch our pros and cons on spray foam versus like fiberglass. One of the things I love about spray foam, closed cell spray foam, is its density, and therefore like even maintenance is a lot easier than fiberglass. With the vinyl backing or the you can rip it and it's just more that you have to be careful with.
It's more forgiving.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's the thing. So like with vinyl fiberglass, you can't get it wet, right? Because even though it's surface and water splashed on, it's not going to really damage it.
Yeah.
But it's still fibrous. The vinyl is a whole bunch of fibers, and over time, as it gets hot, right, it starts to delaminate. It starts to crack. I guarantee you, walk into a building that's 10 years old right now, you can stick your finger right through the vinyl and it's just going to crack like potato chip because it gets dry rotted. With spray foam, it's a lifetime product. You can, if say you got a mechanic shop where you can actually put water in there, you can spray the walls off, so it's something that's user friendly. You can't poke your finger through it. Like an open cell, people love poking their finger through open cell. And it's just like, oh, it's squishy.
Yeah.
With closed cell, you can't. It's rock hard.
Yeah.
That's why closed cell is the ideal choice for metal buildings.
The whole office is always making fun of me because, like, when I'm going out there and doing the tours on our YouTube channel, I'm always like pounding the wall.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, exactly. It's that, on the sound side, that's the one negative. Your client's probably like, oh, this is all pro open cell, pro closed cell, pro this. I'll give you one negative. Okay, the one negative thing about closed cell is the noise, because when it rains, it's so loud. My warehouse, I have a 10,000 square foot warehouse for the business, the one that's here in Dallas. Fortunately, our office space is built into the metal building, but it's open celled all the way around it, but you can't hear it. But if I take a phone call out in the warehouse when it's pouring down rain, I can't hear anybody on the phone. That's the one downside about closed cell, because it's so rigid that it actually amplifies the noise.
Okay.
So there is one negative, but that's why, like on the bar to medium side, that's why we do closed cell then open cell.
The open cell's what helps.
The open cell will pillow that noise.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's very much like a sponge. Like you can, it's kind of like, it's kind of like this right here.
Yeah, I mean, you can, like, we've actually insulated, like, with open cell, like, we'll do a custom home. And you'll get some of these clients who are like, you know what, do every interior wall in this house with foam. And I'm like, the first thing I tell them is like, it's going to be too tight, right? Because what happens is the AC kicks on and the negative positive pressure differential will make doors slam because it's that tight. But you can walk into an entire encased foam room and it sounds like you're just in a quiet room. Like, it works great in studios because it's like, the sound coefficient for it is better than fiberglass, but right around rock wool type high density soundproofing. So it's really good. But closed cell is not for sound.
Another question is, a lot of our clients, obviously the type of products we do is a lot of shops, a lot of garages, a lot of workshop for clients that are working in them, not necessarily living space. So typically they'll do 1 inch to 2 inch, sometimes even 3 inch closed cell spray foam. What would you recommend for someone like, hey, well, I'm interested in spray foam. What should I consider? 1, 2, like, what would you recommend for someone?
The biggest qualifying factor we always ask people is, what is your ideal usage and your dream usage? And the reason is because you might build a shop for a guy today. It's his dream shop. His classic cars are in there. It's his little man cave. And then his dream is, I'm going to build a nice little man cave bar or game room in here. I'm going to air condition this place. And that's the dream, because I'm going to put some money together. I'm going to do that, right? Well, what they're going to find out is 1 inch is not enough to air condition a metal building. Okay. You have to have no less than 2 inches, but ideally you want 2 inches in the walls, 3 inches in the roof if you're going to put air conditioning there. And the reason the roof gets more is because majority of your heat load, right, is up at the roof, not your walls. Your walls are not directly hit by the sun. Even if the facing is the sun's on this side, well, it's only hitting the top part of your wall, not the whole wall.
That's true.
You follow me? So the roof is where your heat load is. So you can get by, if they're really budget minded right now, I would say you can get by with 1 inch of the walls, but you always want to do more than what's necessary. And that's where, so the minimum we do is 2 inch walls, 2 inch roof. Ideal, 2 inch walls, 3 inch roof.
Gotcha.
That indoor pool is 7 inches in the roof and 5 inches in the walls. So there's a place for everything. Like when we do indoor freezers, it's got to be a minimum 4 inches.
For like indoor, like freezing? Yeah.
Yeah, so like if you take like a Costco freezer or a walk-in cooler at Costco, they're built into the center of the Costco, right? Slump blocking this, but there's closed cell all the way around that room, top and bottom. And it has to be a certain thickness based off of what is your use going to be.
That makes sense.
The other thing that I want to touch base on is it's important to know the end use in a spray foam building. Say it's a welding shop. The foam itself does have some flame resistant properties. However, you don't want to be welding up against spray foam.
Yeah.
Period. Right? So they make a paint that goes over it to create a thermal barrier, fireproofing over the spray foam. So it's always important to know what they want.
Talking about the paint, because that's another one of our questions. You just mentioned it. So many clients don't like you know, the yellow, or there's even purple. Do you do the purple?
So, no. So what's funny is everybody's like, oh, there's blue out there, there's green out there, there's purple, there's all these colors. Manufacturers for several years they wanted to be known for their color. Like Owen's Corning wanted to be pink. You know, so like pink foam. The problem is foam absorbs ultraviolet light. So no matter what color your foam is, because it's beautiful white when we start.
Yeah.
Right? 3 days later, it's like, why is it starting to turn yellow? Well, it absorbs light. So what happens is if you go into a building that was sprayed 5 years ago, it's a really dark yellow. It's gross.
Yeah.
It's really ugly.
Yeah.
And this is about as far as my art expertise goes. It's like paint your foam. You know, and we've got one of our largest metal building contractors we do work for mostly barndominiums. We paint every job, every single job. And it's because the end result.
Even if they're gonna like drywall it, you still paint it or no?
No, it just depends. Obviously, in some cases they'll drywall it, but if it's not drywalled, it's painted. And the reason we do that is because it's yellow, right? It will get yellow and it get more yellow and more yellow and more yellow, and eventually the homeowner's probably gonna paint it. Right? It's a lot easier to do it when we're there. It's a little bit more money, but just do it. You know? And then you can be white, then you can be black, then you can be gray, and it's never gonna fade. You know, you do it one time, but foam will continuously get more and more yellow with the more light it absorbs.
This is a question that I have, and I know it's not, but we didn't think about this question. But since the spray foam gets more and more yellow through time, and you're mentioning it's because of more like ultraviolet or what's it called?
Ultraviolet.
Yeah. Does that start to absorb the paint throughout the years, like say 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, or not?
No, so what's really cool about spray foam is you could take like Close-O, you can spray it outside, and the polymers inside spray foam will take over 100 years to start to break down. So like even if it's not coated outside,
Yeah.
it will still take over 100 years. But inside, where it's protected from the elements of outside, that's why a manufacturer can say, oh, it's limited lifetime. Because it's never going to degrade, it's never going to delaminate. But that comes back to the installer has to do his job right the first time. And I know one of the future questions that we're going to talk about, but it has to do with that. It's, you know, but as far as the yellowing, it won't break down.
Okay.
It's like on the open cell topic, it can actually submerge open cell in water for 72 hours. Pull it out, dry it out, and it's still good insulation.
That makes sense.
Fiberglass, right? If you stick it in the water, it's done for, right? You might as well just replace it. And so, but with foam, you don't have to. Close-O, it's in docks. You know, if you go down to the marina, you know, all those tubes that are underneath the dock, that's all Close-O filled. Yeah. So you'll see Close-O in the hull of boats. Yeah. You know, people have foam in so many things that they don't even realize.
That is really, really impressive. I'm learning a lot. So thank you so much for coming out here. And we're not done yet. I'm just really, really impressed and really amazed at everything I'm learning about
spray. I geek out on spray foam. I know it's weird, but it's hard. It's like the one thing I'm good at.
Before we end the topic about the painting, I know a lot of our clients are loving the painting spray foam, and it's really turned a lot of our viewers into like, oh, I thought it had to be purple, or I thought it had to be yellow. No, well, you can paint it. And so you brought a lot of knowledge about that. And then the last final just quick question on that is, so you can paint it with the paint that has some sort of fire resistance, or?
Correct. So it's a thermal barrier paint, and basically takes the place of sheetrock. So sheetrock creates a thermal break between the fire and the product that it can burn. Correct. Thermal barrier paint is applied to a certain thickness, and it can hold back, you know, depending on that thickness, it could be a 15-minute, 30-minute, 45-minute. There's ways to get the fire rating up depending on the type of job. Like in commercial buildings, we're trying to get a 1 hour fire rating, right? No less than, I think it's 15 or 30 minutes. The code keeps changing.
Yeah.
And so depending on the product, depending on what the end use is very important to know on that. But that paint also is white, black, or gray. And this is something, you know, to take in mind is we can pretty much paint any color. You know, we've one of our clients, they like to match the inside to the outside metal. So like we literally have a Mueller sample on file with our paint supplier, and I'll be like, hey, I need this type of red Mueller, and they're like, done. You know, and I'm like, okay, but we can, you know, what I did, like in my shop, I've got a black ceiling and gray walls.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm a big fan of like making the beams black. You know, it's like it's really cool, and like black and white, especially with the modern feel, dude, it makes buildings look killer.
Amazing.
You know, and it's a little bit of money at the very beginning,
but it's worth it.
It's worth it.
Worth it long.
Yeah, it's better than a yellow building.
Which is now comes to another question that is one here is like basically 3 questions in one. Some clients say it's not in the budget. They'll do 1-inch spray foam, and they say, you know what, but later on they can come in and can they spray more onto, you know, the 1-inch closed cell spray foam they did a year before.
Right.
Is that possible? And also like painting.
You know, anything is possible with a little bit of money. And the reason I say that is because, as you know, spray foam is a very messy product.
Yeah.
Okay, we come in there, we have to prep everything. Anything that's not supposed to have spray foam on it gets plastic, right? So what happens when you've decided, you know what, I'm 2 years into here, I've got all my nice stuff in here, I've hung stuff on the walls, I've done this, I've done that. You're gonna call us, and I'm gonna say, hey, we would be happy to do that. The price is gonna be, you know, relatively close to what they paid the first time, except for there's probably gonna be a $2,000 or $3,000 line item for prep. Because what happens is, we've seen this time and time again, like on barndominiums. We'll come in there, we'll spray, they're like, you know what, we wanna add this room or do this and that, but they don't wanna remove anything. Well, then we're taking responsibility for your stuff. And we don't wanna be responsible for your stuff, so we ask you to move out. So we say, hey, you're shopping, we get at least 1 or 2 a month where we have to come in, but they move all of their stuff outside. We do our job, and then they have to move all their stuff back inside. That's the only way to make it cost effective. So if they can find it in their budget at the beginning, it's always best to just do it one time. You know, plus with like anything, right? The prices right now have been pretty good for the last year.
Yeah.
You know, they've actually come down a little bit. They haven't really skyrocketed, but you get into like those COVID situations where, you know, it gets 4 times the price it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so it's, you never.
Actually, y'all did have that there.
Oh, it was bad. Almost every other week we had an inflation. You know, it's like we took customer deposits, right? Because we're always booked out. You know, we're running 10 crews in Dallas of spray foam every day. We tried to procure enough material, and so we took all these deposits down. Couldn't even get enough material, and then by the time those jobs are ready in 6 months or a year, it's 4 times more expensive for the product. We had to honor the price, of course, but they got super expensive.
Yeah.
You know, a job that's $5,000 today during COVID would have jumped up to almost $15,000. It got nuts. And so, but yeah, just obviously budget's everything, right? And insulation is probably one of the most overlooked thing in the process because it's not pretty, right? They're not thinking about the functionality of it. They're like, yeah, I need insulation. Yeah, right? Well, I don't know if I need the air conditioner right now, but it's one of those things that gets overlooked, especially in residential, because it's like it's not a pretty countertop or pot filler over the stove or something that they can see and function every day with. But it's always best to do it at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Plan to move out.
That makes sense. Okay. So that answers really good the question. So it is possible. It's just definitely going to be a little bit more of an extra cost. And then obviously it can be just tedious of just like having to move things or cover things and
yeah, I mean,
it's things.
You don't want, after you've established your shop, you know, for whatever purpose that is. I mean, we've even had that with beer distilleries. They want you to come in. We've been in like Amazon fulfillment center type places where they want to do insulation, and we've done them. We'll come in there, we'll do everything possible. We have to cover every rack, the floor, the walls, but then we have to uncover it so they can work the next day, you know? So it's like everything is doable, but the most cost-effective approach is obviously to do it.
I think we've gone through all our questions, and I'm just going to ask you some questions that are coming in my mind just to finalize this great conversation. How long should a client wait usually be after it's been spray foam that they can access the building and start using it from your...
I mean, it's essentially the foam itself is cured within an hour. You know, so they can essentially use it. If the buildings are wide open, you know, we have the doors open, this and that, and it's aired out, great. You know, you don't have to do the 24-hour time. You know, if a building's closed off, you know, just say it's a barndominium. And, you know, we're going to tell them 24 hours just because we want all of it to, with closed cell's fuel-based product, so it does off-gas at the install. Open cell does not because it's water blown, but it's 1 hour.
We usually tell our clients wait 12 hours or 24 hours.
24 hours, it's the universal number. You know, it depends on just how quick they need that space, right? That's what it comes down to. You know, health and safety's perspective of it. 24 hours is the go-to number, but the realistic part of the building is super ventilated, right? Especially the ones that have a lot of garage doors. You know, because my guys aren't working with the garage doors closed once they're done. They're opening up every single door so that way they're not baking anymore. You know, because we're prepping off all the doors and it's hot in there. It's sauna in there. You know, because the foam's being spread at 128 degrees.
Yeah.
And so, especially in the summer, we're cooking. You know, it could be,
Literally,
we're literally 160, 170 degrees in that building when we're spraying paint.
and they're covered, right?
They're covered in suits and coveralls and a mask. And oh yeah, in the summertime, they're walking with just puddles of water behind them. It's just, it's hard. Yeah. That's why in the spray foam business, you don't usually see an overweight person like me spraying, because it's like they lose their weight instantly.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Walter. The final question is there any advice you want to give someone that's looking, that maybe we haven't talked about, but someone that's looking to get a metal building and they want to, they're considering spray foam?
I mean, the best advice I can give you is spray foam. It's a one-stop product. Once it's in there, it never has to be removed. It never has to be added to. Once you've established what you need it for, it's one stop. You know, you don't ever have to worry about it degrading over time. You know, it doesn't delaminate. That's gonna be the best thing for it. The biggest thing too is when you're looking for a spray foam contractor, it's very important that they've been doing this. They understand the science behind it. You know, because one of the biggest things I've seen in metal buildings is when the spray foam contractor sprays the wet metal. Okay, so say it rains, right? We've had a lot of rain this year, and so if they show up to the metal building and they're there because they want to make money. And that's problem number one, is they're there because they want to make money, not because they're there to try to do a professional job. So what they do is they spray it. Well, what happens is you get a call, hey, my building is popping. And then you're trying to figure out why. The reason it's popping is because the foam didn't fully adhere to the metal. So what's happening is, remember how we were talking about expanding and contracting early on? The building expands and contracts naturally. The foam, when it adheres to the metal, will expand and contract with the metal. So it moves as one system. Right, so now when you have the metal and the foam, and you put let's call it an 1/8 inch gap, because it sprayed to the metal, but it pulled away because of the moisture, right? Because foam and water do not get along on a wet surface. So it pulled away, so it is not adhered to it anymore. So when that metal's expanding, they're shifting almost like tectonic plates.
That makes sense.
And so that's why you have pop, 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 pop. And it can be any time of the day, any place, and then it's really hard to know where, right? So the only way to fix it is to remove the spray foam and spray it correctly. And it's usually due to moisture. That's usually the number one reason. So all of our crews, they'll get paid one way or another.
Yeah.
If they show up to a job, and we call it a dry run, they'll still get paid, right? So, and we do that because they will let us know, hey, this building is not ready. There's water on the metal. Because we've seen that time and time again. Companies don't want to, you know, especially the smaller companies. It's, you know, they're kind of a month to month or week to week, you know, trying to make a living, which, you know, the struggle's there. And I mean, I promote small business. I want them to hustle, but do it right.
Yeah.
But that's where the metal building companies and their customers suffer. You shouldn't have popping. And that's,
so that makes sense. So it makes sense, because we've had that situations happen where like the clients are hearing like the popping,
and it wasn't me.
Yeah. Well, let's find out now.
Definitely.
But it makes sense. Now. Why? Because definitely the sheet metal is supposed to expand and contract. And so, and it's doing that, but with spray foam, it still will expand and contract.
Right,
But
it's a slower rate.
Yeah, it's slower
So,
rate.
you know, metal by itself, it expands and contracts at a little bit higher rate. But now that it has the close cell on it, it's still moving naturally, but they're moving together as one, but at a very slow rate. And so that's why you don't see the foam cracking, right? Because if they were shifting together, but at a high rate, foam is very rigid, so it would crack. But it's such a slow expansion and contraction rate, but they're together. So you're not, there's no friction. So you're not going to have popping.
That makes sense.
You know, if you have popping in, say, the first 24 hours, I'm not going to say it's 100% normal, but I'm not going to say it's abnormal either, right? Just because it's settling. Okay, there's some settling there. Because we're heating the metal up too.
Yeah.
You know, we're putting 128 degrees on metal that might be in the wintertime is cold.
Yeah.
That's why sometimes if you watch us spray in the wintertime, we'll flash the metal first with an 1/8 of an inch of foam to heat it up. Because that's the other problem, is foam doesn't like to stick to cold. You know, it needs to be about 60 degrees and above to really stick. So in the winter times, where we have the biggest battle with close cell is trying to get the temperatures right.
Yeah.
And so you'll see us flash it and play with it to kind of heat the metal up, you know. But if you have a cool, you know, winter morning, a lot of moisture content,
Condensation.
a lot of condensation. And then that's where, you know, in our case, you'll get a call and say, hey, we'll be back. You know, and a lot of metal building guys are like, can't you just wait or this and that? Well, it takes a long time for that moisture to go away.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you do have these long weeks of rain. It's just the humidity is way too high.
Yeah.
That's number one reason.
There it is.
So fine.
No, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I think it was one of our questions, now that I think about it, but about popping, because that can happen. But I have another question that just came up. One of our teammates did mention about that, or asked you that question. Spray foam before or after electrical?
If I was doing what I do, I'm gonna do spray foam after. When it comes to metal buildings, the look is everything. And some a friend of mine the other day, he told me this, and this makes total sense to me. He's like, people scrounge and they save for that dream building. As a company, it is your job to make it look good.
That's so true.
Right? Even though you're there for an install of foam, which is a product, you're there to make it look good. Because if you have a really bad foam job, guess what? They're gonna see it every day.
That's so true.
Every day. When their friends come over, hey, I got spray foam. Oh, look at my cool building. And they walk in, it's like, it's like, what? And so in my case, when it comes to the electrical, I will say though, the electrical box is driving me nuts. When my guys don't cover them properly and there's foam on the side of them, that drives me insane. Okay? That's the one thing that should be clean. Like we as a company are supposed to be wrapping those.
Right.
Keep the entire box clean. But when it comes to the conduit, let's hide it within the spray foam. Because even if you had to get to it, like that indoor pool, they actually had to replace a Cat 5 cable going from the big ass fan to the thermostat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was conduit all the way up, covered in foam, right? A lot of foam.
Mm-hmm.
But they were still able to send the fish tape up through the conduit to run the wire.
Yeah.
So in a lot of metal buildings, it's conduit, right? It's not loose wires.
Yeah.
If it was loose wires, I'd say, no, don't do it that way, because the conduit, though, you can still get to it.
Yeah.
So hide it. Make it look clean.
Yeah. And I did speak with an electrician. I asked them that. They said, we love to work also, before the spray foam. Not afterwards, because it's just a lot harder to work around with.
It's difficult. They have, because that's the other thing too. So for example, let's say the electrician comes in after us, and we sprayed the entire metal building 1 inch thick. We flashed all the metal, right? Well, where's that conduit go? Onto the metal.
Mm-hmm.
So they're supposed to take their conduit, put it over the foam, chip away foam, and get their screws to go through there. But then there's a gap between the conduit and where the screws are. So now the screws aren't long enough. So then over time, those screws are working themselves out. Do it before.
Do it before.
See,
I love the look of industrial, so where I can see the conduits. But from installation, like I've seen it done afterwards, like, nah, I think I would still do it before. So where you just cover it, just because of how it's a lot more, it doesn't look the way I would imagine it.
Not with spray foam.
Yeah,
If you have some exposed, beautiful brick,
Yeah.
and you've got conduit going across it, that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
But if spray foam's up there, I wouldn't do it. If it's my own, I wouldn't do it.
This is it. Walter, thank you so much for joining the channel and providing so much value and really educating on more about spray foam. I learned so much. So I'm really stoked about this whole, when it comes out to our channel, because there's a lot of value and I learned a lot, and I feel like our audience is going to learn a lot, especially someone that's also looking into getting spray foam for their metal building. Walter, any final comments?
There's always just so much to say, but the biggest thing I want to put out there for, just all your listeners, your fans, your pack, it's what you all call them. I think that's great. Is when you're building a metal building, search out your contractors. Not all contractors are created equal. It's okay to use a small business. It's okay if they've only done 1 or 2 buildings, but ask a lot of questions, because you can have somebody that's brand new into the industry, but they're educated. They're paying attention. They want to learn. They want to grow.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just, hey, I can make a quick buck, right? The same thing applies to your installation company. It doesn't matter if they've been around 20 years. It doesn't matter if they've been around 1. It all comes down to the leadership, and it comes down to, do they know what they're doing? And in our business, they started creating all these franchises. And it's, they get a little money together, they get a little franchise name, and they only end up lasting about 2 years. And what that does is actually hurts the industry, right? I feel bad for the individuals who spend all this money, but it hurts the industry, because spray foam is a fantastic product, but when applicated incorrectly, it can create issue too. So education is the most important part of what I do,
Yeah.
is ensuring that, and I can say how many times I had a customer say, "Hey, I'm gonna use the other guy, he's cheaper and my budget's just not, friendly." And I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Why don't you just call me with any questions?" I said, "Even when they're done, let me come look at it. I'll let you know if I see anything." Because I care more about the end result than about the money. And then I think that's important for your clients to know about any company out there that you're choosing to use. Research, you know? It's okay to use a newer company. It's okay to use an existing company. Just it all comes down to, what do they represent? What do they believe? What do they know about what you want? This is your dream build. This is your project. So, align yourselves with people who care about your project and not care about just your money.
And you mentioned something is leadership. That's the key from there. Yeah, and what kind of leadership and what do they believe in? Because that's what translates down. So
100%.
that's awesome. And if you're looking to get spray foam and you are, not just for a metal building, but for residential, commercial, industrial, definitely reach out to Performance Spray Foam and with Walter. And of course, we have a business partnership or a business relationship. So if you're looking to get spray foam, we do offer that as well. Aside from that, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on all our social media channels, which is our Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. If you have any questions, any comments, leave them in the comments. If I can't specifically answer, I might reach out to Walter to help answer some of those questions. And other than that, it was a great episode, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Pack! Stay up to date with everything we're up to by checking out our social media. You can find us at WolfSteel Buildings for behind the scenes actions. We share our latest projects, updates on what the team is working on, and all the exciting progress happening in real time. Don't miss out on the action and give us a follow.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question. Is this one of your top 5 tubular builds?
It's actually in my tops.
Your
It
tops,
definitely
yeah.
is. I love the uniqueness. I love the just how different it is. How the whole square footage is maximized using the building, but having a lean-to, and then there's gonna be a storage space, a man cave, the spray foam, the cedar accents. It's beautiful.